It spent $94,000 on a study about fashion photography on Instagram and social justice. Yeah, and social justice selfies. Here's a direct quote from the researcher, okay? Quote, basically, I fart around on the internet for most of my teaching and research.
That's a quote.
That's a direct quote.
Ladies and gentlemen, what does Toronto, Premier David Eby, the Canada Revenue Agency, and the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council all have in common? Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's nothing good, I can tell you that. But joining us to talk about what they have in common is the Federal Director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, Franco Terrazzano. Franco, welcome back to Northern Perspective.
Hey, Ryan, always my pleasure, man. Thanks so much for having me on your show.
All right, what did you do? What did the CTF do? And tell us what all of these, I'm not going to say wonderful entities have in common, but I'll just say, what do they have in common?
Well, what do they have in common? They're the best of the worst in government waste over the last year. So, Ryan, we just handed out our Teddy Waste Awards, right? So I was on stage with our mascot, Porky the Waste Hater, a huge pig in a tuxedo, and we were handing out our Teddy Waste Awards, which are these big golden pig trophies to the best of the worst in government waste over the last year. And you know what we just love to do every year, this is our 28th year doing it, is we make fun of these politicians and bureaucrats, right? We mock them, and the reason we do, two reasons. Number one, if we're not laughing, we're just gonna cry. Like, it is a little bit depressing sometimes when you hear about how they're blowing our money. But number two is, like, these politicians and bureaucrats, they can handle outrage, right? They get outrage all the time. What they hate is mockery, right? They're so important. Look at them. Look at me, right? The elites. So we like to mock them, right? Sometimes just, hey, the emperor has no clothes. So it was a great time handing out these waste awards. A lot of horrendously stupefying government waste over the last year, and we mock them for it.
Stupefying. That's something that Jason Jakes, the interim parliamentary budget officer, used to describe Carney's budget. Maybe he'll be up for an award next year. But yeah, when it comes to Toronto, so Heritage Toronto, they've wasted $2,000, and you guys gave them a municipal waste award winner for this. So what was that about?
Yeah, they wasted $2,000 buying a plaque for Conrad, a raccoon that died 10 years ago. Right? $2,000 on a plaque for a raccoon that died 10 years ago. You know, Ryan, on the bright side, I don't know if you're a Leafs fan or not, but I got to make this joke. I'm a Flames fan. Welcome to Toronto, where a dead raccoon now has more hardware than their professional hockey team, you know? And
Yeah.
yeah, like this dead raccoon, right? It died like 10 years ago. And it took the city like 15 hours to remove the raccoon off the street. And Torontonians, they brought like candles and flowers to this raccoon, like back in 2015. And then for some reason, these bureaucrats at Heritage Toronto in the city of Toronto, they thought it'd be a good idea to spend $2,000 to give this dead raccoon a plaque. And, you know, for that, we're giving these bureaucrats at the city of Toronto a plaque that they deserve, which is a big golden pig statue.
Okay. So that's one heck of an opener. All right. So we have the dead raccoon plaque for the city of Toronto. All right. So let's go to David Eby. What did David Eby do or not do?
Well, what he didn't do is cut waste. What he did do was waste $350,000 on 3 fake soccer balls made out of wood leather. Like, let that sink in. $350,000 on 3 soccer balls made out of wood leather. That information is what we dug up through an access to information request. Pretty hard to believe. And you know, I'll admit it, I don't really watch soccer at all, but apparently neither does David Eby. Because, you know, I'm pretty sure soccer balls, they're not supposed to be made out of wood, and they're supposed to be round. These soccer balls that Eby wasted all this money on, I mean, they're like these like wood leather soccer balls that aren't quite round. I don't even know the the purpose of all this spending. It was just a PR stunt, really.
I'd rather the plaques for the dead raccoons. Um, so wait a minute. He could have spent. He could have spent what? Um, Man, my math is not doing too well right now. Well, he could have spent a lot of money on a lot of plaques over three soccer balls. Okay, so um, that brings us to the federal level, the CRA. Now, aren't they supposed to be taking money and not spending money?
Well, we had to give them award just because of how bad, like how purely incompetent the Canada Revenue Agency is, right? And the CRA, they get like billions of dollars from taxpayers every single year. And we're referencing the Auditor General report. Remember that scathing Auditor General report that came out months ago, right, Ryan, where they found that when you call the CRA, they only pick up the phone 32% of the time. So I guess budgets don't balance themselves, and apparently phones don't answer themselves either. Um, but it's actually worse if you do get someone from the CRA on the phone, because when Canadians called and asked these personal tax questions, the CRA gave out the wrong tax information 83% of the time. Right. So look, instead of calling the CRA, you have a better luck getting the right answer by just asking a magic 8 ball for tax advice. Like, that's how bad the CRA is.
Yeah, law of averages, you probably have a better chance. And I remember even Wayne Long went out on CTV talking to Vashi Capellos, and he even admitted that the CRA has hit rock bottom. So when the liberals are telling Canadians that their own government is doing a terrible job, you know you're doing something bad.
And Ryan, like, can I just like make a concrete, like, here's the issue of it. Who's been in power for the last 10 years? Right? Like, who's been in power, right? Yeah. The liberals have been in power for the last 10 years. And, we're referencing this Auditor General report that came out like, a few months ago, a couple months ago, but there's been like an Auditor General report. I believe it was back in 2017. It was around that time, early days of the Trudeau government, that also found like the CRA was this bad. Right. So it's been like 10 years, not only just an Auditor General report, there's been multiple reports from the taxpayers' ombudsperson, right? Multiple statements in the media, multiple different findings from different government organizations showing just how bad the CRA is. And 10 years later, you get a new Auditor General report showing them what everyone already knows. And it's like, what are you guys doing about this? Right? Like, it's not enough that 10 years later into your reign, you're saying, oh, I guess there's a problem. Yeah, no duh.
Well, and then they show this chalk Pikachu face, and then they turn around and they say, "Well, if it weren't for that last government, we wouldn't be in this position." So,
And who exactly
meanwhile,
was
it was
that last government? Bueller.
okay. So, um, let's move on to the Lifetime Achievement Teddy Award winner. I love that you guys have a Lifetime Achievement Teddy Award winner, and I probably already know the answer as to why this is, but let's talk about why the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council has a Lifetime Achievement Teddy Award.
Well, they earned it, right? They've been okay. They've been working real hard for this award, and all their hard work is finally paying off. So folks, if you like, it's kind of an obscure slush fund, the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council. It's a federal government slush fund. Sorry, it costs taxpayers more than $1 billion a year, right? So this is actually a quite a big cost. And what it does is that it funds research, and it funds research that the government claims looks into issues that matter most to Canadians. Actually, that's a direct quote from the government, right, on what it's funding. Well, let's look at some of the studies that your tax dollars are being wasted on, and let's see if those are the issues that matter most to you. Okay, so it spent $94,000 on a study about fashion photography on Instagram and social
Oh,
justice. Yeah, and social justice selfies. Right, 94 grand.
I'm
Here's a
really glad. I was worrying about that, so I'm glad that it's getting some
yeah.
attention.
Yeah, don't forget about or don't worry about the housing crisis, folks, or the inflation crisis. Let's think about the rhetoric of a selfie. Here's a direct quote from the researcher. Okay, quote: basically, I fart around on the internet for most of my teaching and research.
That's a quote.
That's a direct quote. And you know, I'm reading it. I'm like, yeah, we can tell. Like it's pretty obvious. Okay, listen to this one. And folks, I'm gonna say some language here. Don't get mad at me, get mad at the government. I'll keep it as PG as I can. The government spent $20,000 researching letters to a porn star. 20 grand researching letters to a porn star. Okay. It spent 8 grand studying gender identities of online Harry Potter fan communities. 8 grand. And Ryan, that is a huge waste of money. We all know J.K. Rowling's stance on gender is pretty firm, and grown up Harry Potter nerds never get laid. So I don't know why the government is spending thousands of dollars on that. Here's another one. Okay. It spent $17,000 studying the mating rituals of frat boys in Jasper. Okay. and
Specifically Jasper.
it was specifically Jasper. And you know, the problem with that, among other things, is now that frat boys know that they can get a research grant to study casual sex. You know, we're expecting essentially frat boys from all colleges now to be lining up for federal research grants. So who knows how much those costs are going to be. Ryan, there's a couple more. Let me just list them off and then we can kind of go back and forth. But they spent 50 grand studying erotic video games, 20 grand studying the gender politics of Peruvian rock music. And here's maybe my favorite one. They spent $100,000 studying the birth, life, and death of a grocery cart.
So does that mean we get the long-awaited sequel from David Attenborough that we actually can watch him narrate this on the Discovery Channel? Because that might be something that I would watch at 3 a.m. Is David Attenborough narrating the birth, life, and death of a shopping cart?
Oh, it'll put you to sleep. That's for sure. Hey, and look, first of all, what a silly study. But second of all, why are you spending 100 grand? Like, just get the intern to go to like Shoppers or Safeway or something like that, right? There you go. But like, folks, I know we're kind of poking light at this. You know, I mean, here's the thing though. Why we do it, like I mentioned, is number one, we got to get the message out there. And sometimes when you're, you know, being the happy warrior, trying to make fun of stuff, it's a good way to get attention because at the end of the day, we need people to know, like, this is how the government is blowing your money, right? And folks, you pay too much tax because these politicians and government bureaucrats are wasting too much money. And as I mentioned, we were joking about this, but it's actually infuriating because I don't know what's worse, but either politicians don't know or don't care about how hard people work for the money they earn and the taxes they pay. Because when you have bureaucrats deciding to spend 2 grand on a plaque for a raccoon that died 10 years ago, or a premier spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on fake soccer balls, or a federal slush fund doling out thousands and thousands of dollars researching letters to a porn star, or online Harry Potter fan communities, or the life of a grocery cart, that is an insult to how hard people are working for the money they earn and the taxes they pay.
100%. And you're right. If you didn't laugh, you would cry. And this sounds like something out of, you know, a Quentin Tarantino movie, right? Because it is just so ridiculous. It's stranger than fiction. But this is what the liberal government continually tries to do, is one up themselves on the absurdity of these projects that we're funding. One of our quote unquote favorites is a grant given to a production, I believe it's out in Germany, called Sex Work the Musical, because we need to be giving tens of thousands of dollars to that one. So maybe they'll be up on your
there was
on next
another
year's
one in
Lifetime Achievement
Germany.
list.
There was another one in Germany who actually won a lifetime achievement award for something similar to this. And this was a slush fund that we got shut down. It was the Mission Cultural Fund, and this was within global affairs. And actually, folks, after we published this stuff in our Teddy Waste Awards, it was like 3 or 4 years ago now. We highlighted some of the waste that Global Affairs Canada was spending through this Mission Cultural Fund. It was absolutely obscene. And actually, only a couple weeks after the Teddy Awards, it got so much media, they ended up closing down the fund. And you know, they were spending money, $8,800 on a sex toy show in Germany. And I'm sorry, folks, I'm just going to say the name, called "Whose Jizz Is This?" $8,800 for a sex toy show in Germany, and that money was taken from Canadian taxpayers. And you know, Ryan, maybe I'm a little old fashioned, but if the Germans want to have a sex toy show, they can pay for it with their own money, not with Canadian taxpayers' money.
I would think so. How about the German taxpayers pay it, because we certainly we certainly can't afford it, especially with us being in a real or technical recession, whatever you want to call it. Um, but I want to get to one of the serious questions that I'm sure all of our viewers want to know: who is in the pig?
Oh, I can't tell you. Oh no, no. That's a secret, right? Like Dr. Pepper, right? How do you make it? No, we can't tell you. That's a trade secret. It's trademark. We can't let you know who that is. No, we take that very serious. Hey, I got one other example that's kind of infuriating, and it's a smaller amount of waste, but it actually shows an example of the bigger problem within government. So a nominee, he didn't win, but he was nominated, was Federal Finance Minister Francois Philippe Champagne. So he spent 12 grand contracting out speech writing for his own budget speech. Okay, folks. First of all, I'm pretty sure writing and delivering the budget is the main responsibility of a finance minister. Second of all, if Winston Churchill can find time to write his own speeches while fighting the Nazis, I'm pretty sure our finance minister can find some time to write his own speech. Third of all, within the finance department, there's 23 different communications employees or staffers who cost taxpayers about $2 million a year, including an actual speechwriter whose entire job it is to write speeches. And I forget what number I'm on. I think I'm on number 4, but this might be the most infuriating part. But in the actual budget, the government said it was cutting consultants, right? So the finance minister paid a consultant 12 grand to tell us that they're cutting consultants.
And that person used to work at Alto. That's
Oh
the other
no,
thing.
really? Is that did that come out? I didn't hear about that.
So we actually covered the story this morning, where Francois Philippe Champagne was at the ethics committee yesterday, and the conservatives hit him with that this was a Alto executive, and he left Alto, and Francois Philippe Champagne confirmed this. He said, "Oh well, but that's okay, because he had been gone from Alto for a few months now."
Oh, see, I was busy at the Teddy Waste Awards. I didn't see that. Oh my
So
gosh.
yeah, so it as I said, they keep trying to one up themselves with the absurdity. Um,
Oh my gosh.
wow. Well, but this is actually, it leads to this point in the discussion, because as you said, this may sound comical, and people may think it's absurd, but the attention that organizations like the Canadian Taxpayers Federation can bring to things like this through these types of initiatives can have some very positive outcomes for taxpayers. As you said, you were able to shut down one of these slush funds before, so it actually shows that there is a practical objective to some of these initiatives that you're bringing forward.
That's exactly right. I mean, this is just one of the tools that we use to put pressure on government and to spotlight the waste. And like I mentioned, that was actually a pretty good example. It was only like 3-4 years ago where we spotlight all this waste. I talked about the sex toy show. The other absurd one was within that slush fund, they spent 12 grand so senior citizens in other countries could talk about their sex lives in front of live audiences. Folks, I guess the government thinks the economy is so bad that now they're even outsourcing old people sex stories. So just the absurd. I can't stop. I'm just on a groove right now. So like we blew this up, right? Like we just you made such a big splash and with media, traditional and independent, that we were able to put so much pressure on the government that only a couple weeks, it was like literally a couple weeks after the show and after we uncovered this type of wasteful spending, that the government felt so much pressure that they just scrapped the entire mission cultural slush fund. So that's one prime example of how this works.
You know, I think there's one key takeaway from this, is that this Liberal government has been far too obsessed with sex and far too little obsessed with the actual economy and putting money back in the taxpayer pocket.
It's like some of the spending is crazy, right? And there's just so many different examples of it. Like so many different examples of it. And again, it goes down to I think two fundamental things. Number one, if you can't do the little things right, how should we trust you to do the big things right? They're not getting the little things right, as we mentioned, but they're also not getting the big things right. We just got another PBO report that shows, oh, Carney's already borrowing billions of dollars over budget, right? Oh, that massive deficit that Carney showed in his recent budget update, it's even going to be billions of dollars more than that. So they're not doing the little things right. They're not doing the big things right. The big second fundamental thing of this is remember, folks, this is not their money. This is not the government's money. This is not those politicians' money. This is money that they take out of your pockets, money that you could be using to put food in your family's fridge, money that you could be using to grow a business, to save for your golden years, stuff like that. They're taking your money and they're blowing it, right? So not only does it have a bigger economic implication around the budget, but it also has a moral implication that they are taking your money and they're wasting it on awful stuff like this.